So do you ever feel that there's just not enough time to fit in social emotional learning activities? With so much on our plates, it can feel stressful to rush through the lessons. So before we dig into social emotional learning activities, let's spend a moment or two understanding why they're so important. Social emotional learning activities teach our students EQ, emotional intelligence. We're now discovering that more and more often in life, that life success and life happiness, life fulfillment is stronger for those people who have more EQ. Academics supports IQ or draws out IQ, but our students are even more likely to do better with their academic activities as we dig in and support them with their EQ and their growth mindset and all of these things. So it's really important if we can learn how to integrate social emotional learning into every day and all day. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I'll provide some practical tips and activities, but this is just a leaping board. This is just the very tip of the iceberg, really. This is more just me planting a seed. Then this is not a finite. I could spend my whole life making videos on how to incorporate these things into the classroom. But let's take a look at what this can look like. So something that is essential to successfully integrating social emotional learning activities all day long is to create a classroom culture where students feel safe to express their emotions. So we're going to start with the feeling circles activity. This is to create the safe environment, and there's a great book for it called The Color Monster by Anna Linus. And any of the books that I mention here I've found on YouTube, and they're super easy. Just type in the name and you'll find books even if you can't access them in your library. So once you've read and discussed the book, having read it, you're going to want to dedicate a few minutes to mindfulness, to helping students understand what mindfulness is, and then give them an opportunity to practice that. And this would be done by guiding students to focus on their breath. And then you can gather in a circle, hence the feeling circle, and encourage them to share any emotions that came up, or other emotions that they felt at different times. It's really kind of an open-ended conversation. It's just to create that opportunity for them to understand they can share their emotions. And it fosters empathy and active listening with the peers. So it is, of course, really important that you, as the teacher, are modeling SEL skills. I have seen firsthand a teacher standing over a child, pounding the paper with their finger, and they were asking the child to do sad face, neutral face, happy face, and circle one to indicate how they had behaved, the choice that they had made in a certain moment. And the teacher disagreed with the child's perspective without even really taking time to understand why the child may be disagreeing with the teacher's perspective, because sometimes it's just a miscommunication. But here that teacher stood over the student because the student was not responding correctly, and red-faced, not shouting, but stress and frustration, certainly in her voice, and spittle coming from her mouth. And I was just like, ugh. And I did speak to it. I did address it. But it's really important because you can't teach children to practice appropriateness with their peers if you aren't consistently practicing it with them. And I'm not saying 100% or perfect here. I am saying that I know that I've had to do lots of deep breathing during instructional time, and there are going to be times where you need to speak to the students and say, listen, I am not happy with this right now. I need to have a moment to breathe. And so you can model it. You don't have to be happy all the time or positive all the time, but you need to model how you're managing feelings that could be escalated, even good feelings that are escalated, of course. So having practiced your own, ensuring that you're practicing your own to be authentic and integral about your practice, there's an activity called emotion charades, and because demonstrating emotional intelligence through daily interactions is essential. So emotion charades with the Way I Feel book helps students recognize and express emotions. So of course, once you've read and discussed the books, you've got the activity that you want to participate in, and you're going to have students draw their emotions and act them out silently. Discuss how this helps with emotional recognition and understanding. So that can be part of, you could have already had a separate discussion, giving the students an opportunity to just share everything that they observed and connected with in the book, and then dig separately into this conversation, because you might find otherwise, if you don't give them a chance to say what's on their heart and mind first, it's hard to get them to attend to the activity that's very similar at a young age. So you can also encourage students to use mindful breathing during transitions, before challenging subjects, and prior to moments of excitement to maintain calm and focus. So you would use books. The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig is one example of how you could teach them how to do this before practicing it day in, day out. And I'm just going to say that we did all sorts of things along this vein. A different example than breathing is, my kids, I always said they had the heebie-jeebies, that have got to get the yah-yahs out. Because, climbing from the ceiling, yah, yah. Anyways, so my classroom was situated, and I had the privilege of a door to the outside, and it was safe and appropriate and supported by the school that we allow our students to run out and do a lap around the school. So when I was transitioning from one subject to another, I would often just open the door and say, off you go for one lap. And they were back in like 2 minutes. They were fast. But the point is, I also spoke to them and said, this is to help you regulate your energy and your actions and your choices. If you come back and you're escalated, there's no point in me letting you do this. So if you find this helps you, you need to understand that when you're back in your seat, you're ready to learn. So of course, these kind of activities do come with expectations and parameters. And enforcing those parameters and being clear about them is essential to the efficacy of them. All right. So for this activity, storytelling and empathy, once you've read the book and you've had just whatever discussion seems appropriate, the reality here is this could be a standalone lesson, because so far it looks like I'm teaching you social emotional lessons. The truth is, what I'm teaching you or sharing with you is ideas on how to help them understand why you're giving them these activities. Collaboration, mindful breathing, managing your emotions and understanding your emotions. But there are also great activities for doing a comprehension, or know what to know, learn, or like all sorts of language arts lessons are deep in these books as well. And so you could have a regular language arts discussion first, and then you're going to present scenarios with moral dilemmas. You can discuss how the students might handle them, enhancing empathetic and ethical thinking. So you're really encouraging them, and maybe even teaching them what is empathetic and ethical. Remembering, we've got students coming from a variety of homes, probably a variety of cultures, with all different perspectives, and they need to understand the perspective that is essential to the school and their time at school, and to building relationships as the school sees it. The next strategy is to use the SEL resources that are already in your school, or that you are your old faithful and old trustees. I know that I had access, I used the program Zones of Regulation. I never used the whole program, but I certainly used it as part of my establishing a level of what's acceptable behaviors, the green zone, blue, green, yellow, and red zone, to help the students understand where their behavior was appropriate and inappropriate, or as some programs call it, expected and unexpected behavior. And so I would use parts of all sorts of programs. But the year that I was retiring, we were going through a process as a staff of choosing an SEL curriculum. So we were all doing the same thing, K to 6, and even so much so that everybody was supposed to teach it for the same block each week. So there's strength in that. But if you have resources and you look at your students and you think this program is missing this and this group really needs it, draw on the other books or look for YouTube videos or use the worksheets that have been very successful for you. And when I say worksheets, I say it carefully. Zones of Regulation did have worksheets, but they were really dig deep worksheets. They weren't checkmark worksheets. You're going to be looking for quality worksheets. And one of the resources that I really loved a lot was not an SEL resource per se. It was a classroom management resource, and it's called Teaching with Love and Logic. Can you see that a little bit? And Taking Control of the Classroom. Fantastic for helping me to understand how to create an environment where the students didn't need to get escalated at all. And so use resources that you already have. So number 4, again, is one of my personal favorites. It's collaborative projects. I always worked every year. From the beginning of the year, you could see the momentum that I was building towards doing this massive collaborative project, which is a mural the size of the wall and a whole kelp forest hanging from the ceiling. And we were planting plants and growing things and writing a book together. And I could have the whole class doing different things. And I was answering questions the whole time, but there was no behavior because they knew what to do, because we had spent lots of time throughout the year on establishing the skills to work alone, the skills to work with a partner, no matter who the partner was, the skills to work with a small group, and the skills to understand that we're better together. And so a whole class project, even if you don't get to take it all home at the end. And all of that takes a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's very productive. So you've got a great book, Last Stop on Market Street, and it's fantastic about the value of community service projects. Now, the big passion project I talked to you about was the culmination of their ability to collaborate together. But we also did, as a whole school, we broke up into groups as a whole school, and we did lots of service projects. With my class, one of the favorite and standouts was singing Christmas carols down at the mall and standing by the Salvation Army kettlebells. And we loved doing that. And one year we had the privilege to sing for the neighbor to the school who had cancer. And they were both so blessed. The husband and wife were so blessed by that. But so there's all sorts of ways to work collaboration into your curriculum. And it's so valuable. And you can see that that's not just a story and an activity, that's real world. I mean, that's what they need to do on the playground, in the classroom, and as they go through life at home. So, collaborative projects for the win. Okay, so there's a whole lot of things involved in being ready to do collaboration and community service. First of all, you have to be able to make sure that your students are safe taking them out on a field trip, because, community, hence a field trip. But then you need to be prepared to identify community issues that are age appropriate for your class, and then plan them and collaborate, together. I always do the students into planning, and then I would take it to my team. I would take the team back. Sometimes the team was just my grade partner, and I would take what we had decided, culled from all the ideas, because of course she was doing the same thing with her class, and we pulled those ideas together, and from there we came up with a plan. So other activities, other great social emotional learning activities include role-playing, group discussions, and journaling. These are ways to deepen SEL engagement across content areas. Sometimes it's as simple as, I read a book on, I think it was Denmark during the Second World War, and we were discussing whether you were an observer, a bully, or the person being bullied, and just giving students an opportunity to reflect and select a situation and write down whether they're in that situation the bully, the bullied, the bullier, or the or standing by, the bystander. And it was very meaningful, the activity that I got out of that journaling activity. So you can also, there's mindfulness and SEL and mindful breathing. So there's a book called Breathe Like a Bear by Kira Wiley, or Willie? How would you say that? Anyways, there's also another, a site called Go Noodle that is free to teachers. And they actually have a short video on Breathe Like a Bear where somebody walks you through. So I haven't linked that yet. I might remember to. But if I don't, it's just Go Noodle. Google it. It'll come up free to you. So yeah, help students to manage stress through daily breathing exercises, that transitioning time between classes. So the truth is, as teachers, we feel like so much is being put onto our plates. So off you go, and I hope this was helpful.